In an era defined by the rapid dissemination of information and the ubiquitous presence of digital media, the lines between public advocacy and personal consistency have become increasingly scrutinized by an observant global audience. The modern landscape of public discourse demands a rare alignment between the words spoken on grand international stages and the choices made within the private spheres of those who occupy the spotlight. When this alignment wavers, the resulting friction often generates a profound wave of public skepticism, prompting deep questions about authenticity, intent, and the true nature of modern celebrity influence. It is within this complex dynamic that we find a growing narrative surrounding prominent global figures who transition from traditional institutional roles into independent platforms of international advocacy. The transition is rarely seamless, as the heavy mantle of past associations frequently clashes with the newly adopted identities of independent global changemakers. This ongoing transformation creates a compelling spectacle, drawing the attention of millions who watch not only the grand declarations, but also the subtle nuances that define public appearances. As we delve into this exploration of public perception and the demanding standards of global messaging, we invite you to become a permanent part of our community by subscribing to the channel, ensuring you never miss our deep analytical look into the events shaping our cultural and media landscape. The fascination with public figures who attempt to pivot into specialized fields of advocacy often centers on the concept of credibility, an intangible asset that is meticulously built over time but can be rapidly compromised by perceived contradictions. In recent times, the public has witnessed a series of high-profile engagements where individuals with immense global reach attempt to address some of the most pressing technical and ethical challenges of our generation, from digital safety to technological ethics. These appearances are often staged with immense care, designed to project an aura of authority, seriousness, and deep commitment to the cause at hand. However, the reception of these messages is frequently complicated by the immediate availability of past data, previous public statements, and the visible lifestyle choices of the speakers themselves. This digital footprint creates a persistent shadow, one that follows the speaker onto every stage and informs every critique leveled by analysts and the public alike. The tension between the carefully curated message and the unscripted reality of a public figure's life forms the core of modern media analysis, where every gesture, every choice of attire, and every shift in vocal tone is passed for deeper meaning. This analytical lens is particularly sharp when applied to individuals who have chosen to distance themselves from traditional frameworks of authority to establish their own independent legacy, a path fraught with unique public relations challenges. As these figures step forward to deliver lectures and participate in international forums, they often find themselves navigating an environment that is far less controlled than the institutional settings they once inhabited. The lack of a structured, built-in audience can lead to stark visual contrasts, where a speaker accustomed to massive crowds and universal recognition faces a more muted, indifferent response from the general public. This contrast highlights the shifting nature of modern fame, where the prestige of an inherited title or a past institutional role does not automatically translate into genuine, grassroots authority in specialized global debates. The phenomenon of the indifferent crowd serves as a powerful indicator of how public perception operates in the absence of traditional pomp and circumstance, revealing the raw dynamics of celebrity presence in ordinary spaces. Observers frequently note the profound difference between events surrounded by intense public enthusiasm and those that pass almost unnoticed by casual bystanders, suggesting that the public can instinctively sense when a message lacks the necessary resonance or when a speaker is perceived as merely playing a part. This perception of performance over substance is a frequent critique in contemporary media, where audiences have become highly sophisticated in detecting artificiality and the adoption of specific public personas. The comparison is often made to well-known fictional characters or carefully scripted television roles, where individuals project an idealized version of strength and authority that may not fully align with their actual experience or lifestyle. This disconnect can lead to a sense of embarrassment, both for the speaker, who must navigate a lukewarm reception, and for the audience witnessing the spectacle of unreciprocated prominence. The intricacies of public behavior during these events offer a rich tapestry for analysis, from the subtle indicators of physical discomfort to the broader implications of how a message is structured and delivered. When a speaker's cadence accelerates or their vocal tone shifts under the pressure of a public forum, it hints at an underlying awareness of the scrutiny they face and the potential contradictions inherent in their position. These subtle moments of vulnerability provide a fascinating glimpse beneath the polished exterior of global advocacy, raising questions about the internal pressures experienced by those who seek to lecture the world while managing the complexities of their own public image. The ongoing debate surrounding the effectiveness of these public messengers underscores a fundamental truth about modern communication, which is that the authenticity of the speaker is often deemed just as important, if not more so, than the validity of the message itself. As we prepare to look closer at the specific instances and the detailed context that have sparked this global conversation, the stage is set for a deeper understanding of how modern advocacy is perceived, judged, and ultimately valued by a world that demands consistency above all else. The critical intersection of public advocacy and personal conduct becomes acutely apparent when examining the specific details of a recent international gathering in Geneva, where the focus turned toward the pressing global issue of digital safety and the protection of vulnerable demographics online. The conference, designed to address the profound ethical and societal implications of rapidly evolving artificial intelligence and social media frameworks, featured a highly anticipated address by a prominent global figure whose transition into independent advocacy has been the subject of intense public debate. The core of the discourse centered on the powerful assertion that children must be safe by design rather than safe by chance, highlighting the urgent reality that modern digital dangers travel globally, instantly, invisibly, and intimately. While the sentiment itself received widespread agreement from experts and attendees who recognize the absolute necessity of tougher regulations for online behavior, the reception of the speech was instantly complicated by the identity and recent actions of the messenger. Analysts and observers quickly pointed out a stark contradiction that seemed to undermine the entire ethical foundation of the presentation, noting that only days prior to delivering this impassioned plea for digital privacy and childhood protection, the speaker had shared a personal photograph of her young child, Lily, to a massive online audience. This choice sparked immediate criticism from media commentators, who argued that true commitment to protecting children from the inherent risks of the internet requires a total safeguarding of their own privacy, especially considering that young children are entirely incapable of granting informed consent to having their images broadcast across global digital platforms. The friction between the spoken lecture and the lived reality created an immediate wave of skepticism, illustrating a classic example of public figures failing to live the very life they preach to the rest of the world. This perceived hypocrisy is not an isolated incident, but rather fits into a broader, highly visible pattern of behavioral contradictions that have defined the public profile of this high-profile couple over recent years. A primary example of this disconnect can be found in their extensive involvement with environmental advocacy, specifically through the creation of a travel initiative known as Travelist. Founded with the grand ambition of educating the global public on how to actively minimize their carbon footprint and adopt sustainable travel practices, the company was heavily promoted as a revolutionary step toward global environmental responsibility. Yet, while lecturing the public on the ethical necessity of shrinking their carbon footprint, the founders themselves were repeatedly observed utilizing private jets to travel across the globe. Jet-setting from one luxury destination to another with a carbon output vastly exceeding that of the average citizen. This glaring disparity between environmental preaching and personal luxury has become a focal point for critics who argue that the couple operates under a double standard, expecting the general public to make personal sacrifices while exempting themselves from the same rules. The debate intensified further during the discussion of the Geneva speech as commentators analyzed the speaker's past promotional activities, specifically highlighting an incident during a tour in Australia. While engaging in deeply emotional public appearances, embracing children battling cancer, and meeting with survivors of the tragic Bondi Beach shooting, the speaker was simultaneously utilizing her platform to promote a specialized artificial intelligence application designed to allow users to shop her personal closet. The juxtaposition of leveraging vulnerable, grieving individuals and traumatic community events to drive commercial engagement through an artificial intelligence application, only to later stand on a global stage in Geneva lecturing the world about the insidious dangers of artificial intelligence, was viewed by many as a jarring and deeply troubling contradiction. This pattern of behavior has led media analysts to closely examine the physical nuances of the delivery itself, focusing heavily on the subtle body language cues that manifested during the presentation. Specialized observers noted that as the speech progressed into the more controversial territory of digital ethics, the speaker's behavior exhibited distinct signs of restlessness and underlying tension. There were subtle shifts in posture, moving back and forth behind the podium, accompanied by a noticeable acceleration in the cadence of her speech. Furthermore, vocal analysis revealed a slight constriction of the larynx, causing the vocal tone to rise to a higher register, a physiological response frequently associated with heightened internal stress, discomfort, or defensiveness. These subtle physical indicators suggest an acute awareness of the scrutiny surrounding the presentation, hinting that perhaps the weight of past criticisms and the inherent contradictions of the position were actively impacting the speaker's confidence on stage. The atmosphere within the venue itself added another layer of complexity to the unfolding narrative, as wide-angle footage revealed a surprisingly sparse audience and a profound lack of enthusiasm from the casual bystanders present in the surrounding area. In stark contrast to the massive, roaring crowds and intense public fervor that typically characterize appearances by senior members of traditional royal institutions, this independent engagement was met with a striking wave of public indifference. Onlookers and pedestrians walked past the staging area without stopping, showing no inclination to catch a glimpse of a person once heralded by her spouse as one of the most recognized and popular women in the world. This lack of recognition and engagement directly challenges the previous assertions made by the couple regarding their immense global popularity and the supposed jealousy it provoked within institutional structures. The visual reality of individuals casually running errands or heading to lunch without offering a single glance or pulling out their mobile phones to record the event speaks volumes about the current state of their public resonance. In modern celebrity culture, the total absence of smartphone recording by a crowd is an undeniable indicator of a lack of perceived importance or interest, signaling that the general public either did not recognize the individual or simply did not care enough to document the moment. The choice of attire for the occasion also drew considerable commentary, with observers describing the styling as remarkably somber, stiff, and disconnected from the vibrant energy typically required for impactful public advocacy. This aesthetic choice, combined with a delivery that many critics characterized as a highly stylized performance rather than an authentic expression of passion, contributed to the overall sense of artificiality that plagued the event. Commentators likened the delivery to an actress playing a specific, calculated role, drawing comparisons to intense political television dramas where characters adopt an exaggerated, hyper-enunciated cadence to project an artificial aura of strength and authority. This perceived lack of genuine charisma and authenticity stands in sharp contrast to other prominent figures within the same global sphere, whose public engagements are routinely marked by a deep, undeniable alignment between their institutional duties, personal conduct, and public messaging, thereby securing a level of trust and authority that cannot be forced or replicated through strategic public relations maneuvers. The profound realization of this public disconnect brings us to the core of why this shifting dynamic matters so immensely in the broader context of modern communication, celebrity accountability, and the evolving standards of international advocacy. When a public figure attempts to establish themselves as an absolute authority in a highly specialized and sensitive field, such as childhood, digital safety, or artificial intelligence ethics, they are no longer operating merely within the realm of entertainment or casual lifestyle branding. They are stepping into an arena where real human lives, vulnerable families, and complex legal frameworks intersect, demanding a level of flawless execution and personal integrity that can withstand the most intense global scrutiny. In the case of this specific international appearance, the overwhelming consensus among media experts and communication analysts is that the fundamental message regarding online protection was entirely correct, yet the chosen messenger was fundamentally flawed. This critical distinction highlights a recurring challenge in contemporary media culture, which is that a highly valuable and necessary societal message can be completely derailed, overshadowed, and diluted if the person delivering it is perceived as deeply hypocritical or lacking in genuine lived experience. The biography and public trajectory of the speaker offer essential context for understanding how this point of profound alienation was reached over years of highly publicized personal and professional choices. Born and raised within the competitive environment of the American entertainment industry, she spent decades navigating the nuances of television production, media branding, and public relations, cultivating a specific skill set rooted in performance, scripted delivery, and commercial self-promotion. This background stood in sharp contrast to the centuries-old traditions, rigid protocols, and deeply embedded expectations of public service that defined the global institution she married into, creating an immediate and volatile clash of foundational values. The subsequent, highly publicized decision to completely sever ties with traditional institutional responsibilities was framed by the couple as a courageous pursuit of personal freedom, mental well-being, and an opportunity to build a progressive, independent global legacy founded on authentic philanthropy. However, the reality of their post-institutional life has been characterized by a continuous series of commercial ventures, high-profile media interviews, and multi-million-dollar entertainment contracts that frequently relied on airing private institutional grievances to generate massive public attention. This persistent reliance on past associations, combined with a highly visible lifestyle that directly contradicts their public advocacy on environmental sustainability and digital privacy. has steadily eroded the very foundation of credibility required to operate as serious international changemakers. The contrast becomes even more pronounced when compared directly to the operational methodologies of other global figures within the same institutional sphere, such as the Princess of Wales, whose public service model is widely recognized for its steady, unyielding focus on long-term commitment, authenticity, and a total alignment between public declarations and personal conduct. While the traditional institutional approach focuses heavily on elevating the cause, highlighting the stories of ordinary families, and maintaining a dignified, non-preachy presence, the independent celebrity approach frequently places the individual speaker at the absolute center of the narrative, turning serious societal issues into backdrops for personal branding. Analysts suggest that the striking indifference witnessed on the streets of Geneva, where ordinary citizens entirely ignored the presence of a once-revered global figure, serves as a powerful manifestation of public exhaustion with this self-centric model of advocacy. It reveals a growing societal collective intelligence that instinctively rejects artificiality, demanding that those who choose to lecture the world on ethics must first demonstrate a willingness to walk the walk within their own private and commercial lives. A far more effective and impactful approach to the Geneva presentation would have involved a complete step back from the spotlight, allowing the actual parents, survivors, and technical experts who have directly suffered from digital dangers to take the center stage to share their profound, authentic experiences. In that alternative scenario, the prominent public figure could have utilized their immense platform strictly for quiet logistical support, introducing the true authorities in the space and ensuring that the focus remained entirely on the urgent societal need for digital reform rather than on the personal branding of the presenter. Moving forward, the critical lesson derived from this global conversation is that true authority and public trust cannot be manufactured through calculated public relations campaigns, strategic wardrobe choices, or highly stylized performances that mimic fictional television leaders. For global advocates to achieve lasting impact and genuine resonance with a highly sophisticated modern audience, they must completely abandon the dual standard of preaching restrictive rules to the public while utilizing private jets, commercializing personal connections, and exposing their own children to the internet for global engagement. The demanding standard of the modern public square ensures that only those who live the lecture they deliver will ever truly thrive in the space of international advocacy, while those who rely on performative statements will continue to face a rising tide of public indifference, sparse audiences, and devastating critical analysis. As the digital landscape continues to evolve instantly and invisible across the globe, the demand for authentic, consistent, and selfless leadership will only intensify, leaving a shrinking space for the calculated